Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of Livewire TV. I'm super psyched that you have joined us. We did have a little bit of a break, but we're back. We're back with a bang as well. Livewire TV is a place where we like to talk about all about business strategies, mindset, and marketing. And I'm super excited to bring on my first guest of the month as well, which is really exciting. Motiul. Motiul is an absolute property legend, basically. He has created the dream when it comes to property. He's created financial freedom. He's worked from the bottom right up to the top. And now he helps other people to create financial and time freedom or just reach their goals when it comes to property investing. There is literally nothing this guy does not know. Motiul, welcome to Live by TV.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm super excited to have you here because obviously we know each other from like a while back now. So I want to start off with your background. So tell us about how you got into property, because I know that when you were in university, you got started pretty fairly early on in your life, didn't you?
Yes. Actually, what happened was, whilst I was at university, I was trying to invest or purchase 3 properties. Prior to that, I used. Sorry.
As you do.
Yeah. No, I'd say I've always been a bit of a wheeler dealer. Always looking for opportunities and investments, that type of thing. So whilst at university, I used to invest in market stall holders, in their stock and taking a profit share. So whilst I was doing that, a friend of mine who was working in the property industry as an estate agent said, I'd probably be really good at investing in property and it's not very difficult. I should have a look at it. So as you do when you're 19 and at university, you start looking at properties and not wanting to buy one, I tried to buy 3 simultaneously, figuring out it's a really good thing to do, making money through property. Unfortunately, what happened was I got gazumped on all 3 properties, and I thought property is the worst thing you can do. So lost quite a lot of money at that age, what I considered was quite a lot of money, and I thought I'm not going to invest in property, but kept on looking at what was happening with the market, and it just kept on going up, and it just kept on going up, and then you have that feeling, you know what, if I'd done this, hindsight is a bit of a pain in the butt. So about 6 years later, I realized property market had virtually doubled, and had I bought those 3 properties, I would have already been financially free. So like many other people choosing where to start, seeing that had I started earlier, I would have been in a good position. I chose, no point in thinking about what would have and should have happened. Let's start it now. And so that's when I actually started. So like a lot of people, I hesitated for a while, but then I had to jump in.
Amazing. Guys, if you have any questions about investing, property, drop them in the comment section below and we'll be sure to answer them for you. Also, I know that we're broadcasting globally. I see a few of you have joined already, which is amazing. Super psyched to have you here. I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from, though? Comment below. I'll be intrigued. So, like you said before, Motiul, you're a bit of a wheeler dealer, and you knew at university you wanted to make money right from the get-go, really, like any student does. But it takes a bit of a different mindset, because let's be honest, for the average student, property investing, it's not really in their it's not really something that they're just naturally thinking of, is it? What got you really hooked onto it specifically?
So I was studying economics.
Yeah.
So I was doing a BA in economics and a BSc in business information technology. The problem with some types of education is you're boxing yourself in. You're learning a particular field, and sometimes you're not aware of what else is out there.
Yeah.
And being I say, when you're a bit of a wheeler dealer, or people that go through that phase where they're trying to do things to make an extra income, you're seeing other things, other opportunities, and you're seeing ways. And whenever you look at people that have done well, you look at people that are in property, and a lot of them seem to have done well. So that's what got me into looking into how did they actually make their wealth. Were they really highly educated? Did they, go through a long process? And actually, it doesn't matter where you're from, what you've done. You don't have to have a degree or a master's or even a college or GCSEs. It just takes a little bit of effort, the right guidance, and sometimes people fall into it. And sometimes, if you have the right guidance and coaching, you can really accelerate yourself really quickly. And there's more of that about today than there was previously.
Yeah. And I know from knowing you personally that you've been a person who's essentially failed forward. And what I mean by that is you progressed by learning from your mistakes. What are the pitfalls that people should look out for when they're starting out in investing?
Other people. Other people will be one of the things that will be a major pitfall. Usually friends, family, other business associates and colleagues, people that haven't done property will always give you their input as in why they think it's either good or not good. They'll also give you their ideas on how they think you should do it. And a lot of the times, if they're not educated in how to invest in property, they'll be guiding you in the wrong direction. So looking for properties is not necessarily about looking in the area you're in. It's not necessarily the best property would be something that you would be looking for. It's more changing how you find properties, how you see investments. So some people will think it's the worst thing you can do and will advise you in a nice and good way, but they're giving you the wrong advice. Right. You need to be around people that understand how to invest, understand what is a good investment, and that basically your network will actually rub off on you, and that's what does really help you.
So in your experience then, how can you differentiate a good investment from a bad one?
First, you need to work out what you are looking to achieve. So everybody comes in with a different goal. Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for capital appreciation? Are you looking to leave a legacy? What is your actual goal? Do you want to build a multi-million-pound empire, or do you just want to get to the position where you can just go on holidays and live a lifestyle that you want to live? So everybody has a different goal. Depending on what your goal is, that's how you'd actually invest. And there's different types of investors because people have different risk appetites as well. You might not want to do big developments and take major risks. You may just want to do your vanilla buy-to-let and get a return which is quite regular, and you don't want to have the shocks of market changes or anything like that. So it's really dependent on what you want, but there is something for everybody.
So you're essentially saying to start with the end in mind, and then is it safe to say that your goal decides your level of risk?
Everybody's got a different risk appetite. Your goal will probably it will dictate what strategies you will use.
Okay.
But risk, by the way, sometimes what somebody sees as risky is not risky to someone else. So for myself, certain strategies or certain things that I will do, a lot of people will see as extremely risky. I mitigate the risk by having experience and having the knowledge of how to do those things. And the reason people see it as risky is because they don't know how to do it. So once your knowledge increases, you're actually mitigating the risk. Once your experience increases, you're reducing the risk. So risk is different for different people.
Yeah, and I suppose it depends on your level of experience as well, doesn't it?
That's right.
And how much you actually have to lose potentially.
And naivety as well. Sometimes you don't know you're taking such a big risk, which sometimes does help. You did not necessarily be naive, but you need to have be a bit of a go-getter, have a little bit of balls to actually do things.
Yeah, 100% with you on that one. So you've obviously created a very successful business in the property sector. What are your predictions for the future of property? Because some people are saying it's a bubble right now. Some people aren't saying it's a bubble. Other people are saying it's a really good time to get involved in property because of stamp duty. What are your thoughts?
The stamp duty holidays just come to an end. So right now, the market is cooling down with the ending of furlough, with the ending of all of the bounce back loans and people having to repay. We're going to start seeing those effects coming into the market. Is it a bubble? I think prices are slightly overpriced, but we've also had the quantitative easing, which there's a lot of money being pumped into the economy. So there is going to be a lot of inflation. So I see prices not necessarily going up like they have in the last 12, 18 months, but slowly still creeping up. Will there be a correction? Some people feel there is. I don't think there will be such a correction, not like in the last recession when we had the credit crunch. We will have people that are struggling. There will be people that will have to sell their properties. There will be people getting repossessed, that type of thing. I think it's going to be a slight shift. So there will be parts of the economy and in certain locations where people will be looking to sell, will be looking to reduce prices and give up their properties. But in other areas, again, it depends what type of industries are in those areas. Prices are going to be quite strong.
Yeah. It's always subject to change, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I assume that, like, with your strategy, you have to evolve with the times. I mean, can you give us an idea of how to build a solid strategy for investing?
You need to take into account what you actually have. So I always look at the three things that you need to have for any investment. First one being time, second one being money, third one being experience or knowledge. And every single part of investing requires those three things. So if you have time and money, then you either bring in the knowledge and experience, or you gain the knowledge and experience either through doing or by getting trained up. So each strategy will have still the first two parts, the money and the time, and it's the experience that changes. So if we go through a simple purchase, when you're buying a house, for instance, you'll use a solicitor to do the conveyance. So they bring in the experience, but you're gonna pay for their experience, right? Yeah. When it comes to if you're going to do any development, again, you're going to use maybe some of your time, your money, maybe use a builder or a contractor. So you're always going to be at each stage using those things. And the more you have, if you can do this conveyancing, if you can do all the building, you can do all of those things, you then not need to outsource any of these things. Sometimes you don't have the money though. So where do you source that in? You might JV. If you're not buying with cash, you're going to be using a mortgage. So that is a form of JV because you're JVing with the bank. So you're getting some money. So you don't have the full amount, but you're able to get a mortgage JV with the bank and purchase the property. But if you have both,
have you got any tips for people who don't have the time to do something like this, but they want to get started, or they don't have the money to start investing in property?
Somebody that hasn't got the time is actually quite simple. If they have funds and they want to invest, either they can be an armchair investor, they can do a joint venture, they can do lending as well. There are developers and buy-to-let investors that will give them a return for their money. If they don't have the money and they don't have the time, then they will need to build the skill set. So they're going to have one of the three to be involved. Right. If you have all three, you can do it by yourself. You don't need external people to come in.
Yeah. So it's really about looking at your options and then progressing from there. And I think in the beginning, it's a really good idea to hire a mentor, somebody who knows what they're doing, or even like what you said earlier, joining up with somebody who actually knows what they're doing as well.
Yes. You will make mistakes.
Yeah. It's inevitable. Yeah. What kind of properties do you personally invest in?
I started with buying large properties and converting them to flats. I would then further diversify the actual property and make one of the flats into a HMO, a house in multiple occupation. So that the reason for that was I always wanted to make sure that the mortgage was being covered. so that I didn't have a liability that I was having to pay out of my own pocket. And that model worked really well, and I continued using that model quite a few times when I first started.
You mentioned paying out of your own pocket. Was there ever a time where you think, I'm not going to make my mortgage payment this month? Or what if I don't get the tenant in time? Was there ever a time where you experienced that?
When there are voids, so when I started on the first property, the first 2 months whilst we were doing the property up, yes, we were paying out of our pocket. And when I say we, I bought that with 2 JV partners. That's the reason why it was we. Yes, we paid out of our own pocket. But once the property had been split and we were using it as 3 flats, we were quite comfortable, because if one of the flats was empty, the other 2 were bringing in income.
Right.
And one being a HMO also meant that if any of the other 2 flats were empty, that one pretty much covered the mortgage. So that was the whole point. It was so that we don't get lumbered with paying the mortgage ourselves.
Yeah.
And it worked out to be a really good strategy.
Ah, interesting. Was that like a bit of a luck kind of thing, or was it experience?
That I wouldn't put it on fully on experience. It was being creative to try and make sure you don't have to pay the mortgage out of your own pocket. So I looked at all the different ways that we could maybe diversify the property, so that it's basically having the least risk in there and the most likeliness to cover all of the mortgage. And that seemed like the easiest way to do it.
Could somebody invest in property, say, part-time?
Yes, I think most people that invest in property start part-time. I think a lot of people have a job, and they start with buy-to-let properties, and they usually start with that part-time.
Amazing. And I think that's how you started out as well, wasn't it?
I did start out part-time, but after the first property, that was it. I knew that.
You got addicted.
Yeah, because I could see the returns, and I knew if I just bought a few of these, it would basically replace my income.
Amazing, amazing. And that's exactly what you teach other people to do, isn't it? You teach them how to reach their time goals, their financial goals, their own personal goals, don't you? You do that through your business, don't you? Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so I've actually been retired for over 10 years. And what I find is a lot of people...
Before we move forward, when you realised you were able to retire yourself at such a young age, what was that moment like? See that smile?
What I had actually done was set myself a 5-year target to get to what I considered was financial freedom.
Yeah.
And everybody will have a different figure for what is their financial freedom. And once I had set the goal, I didn't achieve it in 5 years. I achieved it in 1. So that's the thing about setting goals. That's the first thing. Having that idea, having that vision of where you want to get to. It's like having the map. If you don't have a map of where you're going, or you don't know where your destination is, you're most likely not going to get there. But if you know where you want to get to and you know how to get there, then it just becomes, do you drive at 5 miles per hour, 10 miles per hour, or you know what, I want to get there really quickly. So you speed up the process. And once I got there, it was then, do I change my goals, or are my goals still the same? Do I want to get to just financial freedom, or do I want to change it and now have a new figure that I want to get to? And at that point, I was like, you know what, I'm quite comfortable and happy. I'll do other things, but I need to have what I wanted, basically have that freedom to do what I want, when I want, how I want. And yes, I was very happy to get there. A little bit upset with my peers or friends and family, because I had also taught them or showed them how to do it. And to this day, most of them are still in the job.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody though, is it? And I think we have to learn to accept that when you pour your heart and your soul into something, somebody else may not reciprocate that.
Yeah, everybody is different. Some people enjoy their job, and there's nothing wrong with having a job. If that's your comfort zone, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. What about the personal challenges that you face? Because obviously going from like a regular income, trying to build up your business, and then all of a sudden get into financial freedom within the space of 12 months. What happened up here? Like, what happened in your mindset for that to happen?
Mindset plays a massive part in investing. First is believing in yourself, but secondly is once you start achieving what you're achieving, you can go in either one of two directions. And I've seen this. You can become a little bit arrogant.
Mm.
You suddenly have this access to money. You have access to wealth, and sometimes you can just go in the wrong direction and become arrogant. Or you can basically reflect on what you've done and try and be humble about what you've actually done and how you've achieved it. I'll admit, at one point when I was doing the deals and I was making the money, some days I used to wake up and I used to feel I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
I felt like I was bigger and stronger than everybody because I knew what was going. But when you realize you don't want to go down that route, that is when you start becoming arrogant. And I didn't want to become like that. So it does have its issues, as in money in itself has its issues. Having the lack of it or having too much of it.
There's a saying that money will make you more of whatever it is that you are. So if you're somebody who is greedy or is selfish or bad with money, when you get it, it will just amplify that. But at the same time, if you're somebody who's positive, giving and caring, again, money will amplify that. And it's interesting how that works, isn't it? Because all of a sudden now you've got this power and then you just use it to grow in a good way or not so much of a good way.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. When you have money, because you get options, you then have to make that choice whether you're going to be that greedy person or whether you're going to be that giving person.
Yeah. So tell us about your business then and how specifically you help people.
Okay, so I help people that want to get to financial freedom, and we actually reverse engineer where they want to get to. So just like we gave that analogy of having a roadmap and having a destination, if you're trying to achieve financial freedom, and let's just say your financial freedom figure is £5,000, which is about £60,000 a year.
Yeah,
that's not too bad. But to achieve that, how do you get there? So for somebody that's looking to start up in property, most of the time they're looking buy-to-let investments, and they start learning about yields. So yield is basically the purchase price and your annual rent. You divide the annual rent by the purchase price and you're getting your yield.
Yeah.
And most people are then just looking, where's the highest yield? Not necessarily is that in their area, not necessarily is that the best place to buy in, because having the highest yield is not necessarily the best place to buy. So what we do is actually look at what's a good place for you to actually purchase. Is buy-to-let, a standard buy-to-let, good for you? If not, what can you do to actually sweat the asset and make more than the standard yield? So the first example when I started was taking a house, converting it into flats and increasing its income, diversifying the actual property, not the portfolio, the actual property to make more money. So how can you use the property in a different way? So you can use a house as a single let, you can use it as multiple lets, or you can use it as service accommodation or holiday lets. But that's not for everybody. So it depends. If that is something that you would enjoy doing, you don't actually have to have tenants. You have clients that come in. They will actually pay you more. You don't have the issues of ASTs. If the tenant doesn't pay, you have to go through the process of evicting. So everybody has different things that works for them and things that doesn't work for them. First of all, we work out is where you want to go and which route you should be taking. So your destination may be up here, but 3 different people will take 3 different routes.
Yeah. It's about finding the right solution for you, really. Yeah.
That's right. And as you're going through your journey, your strategies will change, and it's a ongoing thing. So this is what we do, is basically look at what is the best strategy for you, because if you start on the wrong strategy, you'll actually end up saying, you know what, property wasn't wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Similar to what I
Which
said.
I'm guessing is what you did in the beginning.
That's right.
Yeah. Amazing. Guys, we're going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions around property or investing and just getting started in it, or maybe you're somebody who's experienced, who just wants a bit more knowledge in it, either drop the question in the comment section below or connect directly with Motiul. He's going to drop his details in the comment section below and connect with him. Have a conversation with him. He is so humble, so open, and just so giving, and it's amazing. So I definitely recommend connecting with Motiul as well. Bye, guys. We're going to have an awesome show next Thursday. We're going to be talking all about how you can create time freedom in property and various other investments as well. So it's going to be a really juicy conversation. Cannot wait to see you there, 12 p.m. next Thursday. Have an awesome week, guys.
Bye.